We're good to go. Okay, before we begin this evening, I'd like to remind everyone to silence their cell phones. Council meetings are live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, so please join us on that if you can. I now call the January 21st, 2025 regular council meeting to order. The chair would entertain a motion to, by minute action, excuse the absence of Councillor Pollock. Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councillor Bond. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye. So oh, hey, are we working?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, council, don't use the voting board.
It's working.
I think they're working on it, so sounds like. Okay, all voting aye, say aye. Please record the vote.
With all councillors voting aye, the motion passes.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please read the consent minute approval titles.
Approving the minutes of the January 7th, 2025 regular council meeting and the January 7th, 2025 executive session.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action agenda items just read.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Haskins, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councillors voting aye, the motion passes.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve by minute action the January 21, 2025 bills and claims as audited by City Manager Napier. Moved by Councillor Bond, seconded by Councillor Jensen. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councillors voting aye, the motion passes.
Now is the time that we invite anyone in the audience who wishes to speak with the council to come forward. This portion of the meeting is dedicated to the public to allow them time to discuss matters of public interest and to voice their concerns. We do ask that you please state your name, direct all questions and comments to the mayor. No personal obscenities or threats will be tolerated. Council will not respond to any personnel matters. Those will all be directed to our city manager. Councilors may ask clarifying questions, but if they choose to respond to those matters, they will do so during the scheduled council response, which follows communications from persons present. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes and there are no extensions permitted. Please note that public hearings and ordinances have their own separate comment periods when we get to those. So anybody that would like to join, come on up to address the council. Nobody? Okay. All right, let's go into establishing dates of public hearing. You ready, Amanda? You're good? I know we're moving fast. Go ahead. Please read the consent agenda titles.
Establishing February 4th, 2025 as the public hearing date for consideration of A1A, an application for transfer of ownership interest of retail liquor license number 22, Wyoming Spirits Incorporated, doing business as 2nd Street Liquor and Wine, located at 939 East 2nd Street, Suites 300, 400, and 500. A1B, an application for transfer of ownership interest of retail liquor license number 15, Wyoming Liquor LLC, doing business as Wyoming Discount Liquor, located at 4330 East 2nd Street. A1C, an application for transfer of ownership for retail liquor license number 2, Red Lobster Hospitality LLC, doing business as Red Lobster number 6374, located at 5010 East 2nd Street. A1D, an application for new microbrewery liquor license number 12, Mountain Hops Brewhouse LLC, doing business as Mountain Hops Brewhouse, located at 101 East 2nd Street. A1E, an application for transfer of ownership interest for retail liquor license number 21, Wyoming Downs OTB 12 LLC, doing business as Wyoming Downs OTB 12, located at 1121 Wilkins Circle. And A1F, a resolution for the adoption of the fiscal year 2025 budget amendment number 2.
Thank you. Chair to entertain a motion 2 by minute action, establish the public hearing dates just read. Moved by Councilor Sweeney, seconded by Councilor Haskins. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance approving a zone change for the Robertson Road Addition subdivision. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier dated January 17th, 2025. Exhibit number 2, Casper Star Tribune affidavit of publication dated January 2nd, 2025.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
I do, Your Honor. Thank you, members of the council. This is a culmination of a number of conversations that we've had with the council over the last several months, wherein we've tried to imagine what would be most helpful to transition the property that you see on the exhibit here that the city currently owns into the hands of the private sector and be made available for development. As you're aware, we've attempted a number of times in the past to transition this property to the private sector with no success. The feedback that we've gotten over the years indicates that perhaps the current zoning in PUD is a bit of a hindrance to transitioning the property appropriately. Therefore, the recommendation that we have in front of you now that we've run by you in work sessions in the past is to rezone the property into ag or urban agriculture zoning classification. Understanding that indeed the ultimate decider of what this turns into will be the developer potentially that you sell this property to, and therefore might engender a different zoning classification than what we see here tonight. But without a doubt, this does transition the property from PUD to a fairly open canvas in the form of the ag classification. And we'll see what happens when we go to bid for this property.
Great, thank you. Council will now listen to public comment, though these are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance to please approach the lectern. Anybody that would like to speak in favor? Okay, at this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in the opposition of the proposed ordinance to please approach the lectern. Anybody against? There being no one to speak for or against the proposed ordinance, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance approving a zone change for the Robertson Road Addition subdivision in the city of Casper, Wyoming.
Chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read. Moved by Councilor Bond, seconded by Councilor Jensen. Any discussion? Amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance for an annexation, final plat, subdivision agreement, and zoning for the Patton Addition subdivision. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier dated January 21st, 2025. Exhibit number 2, Casper Star Tribune affidavit of publication dated January 2nd, 2025.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Thank you, Your Honor. I do. The exhibit will indicate the property in question here, located as the clerk read at 4875 South Valley Road. This is a rather unique situation wherein the subject property is requesting annexation in order to gain access to utilities. It's a 3-acre parcel, as you noted, and given its proximity to city limits, both on the east and west sides, and relatively close to where utilities are available, this property is eligible, in our opinion, to not only be annexed but also have access to utilities. Therefore, you see a number of requests coming with this particular action item. It is a zoning request, but comes with it an annexation as well as a plat creation.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. These are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in favor. Okay. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition of the proposed ordinance to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak against. Okay, there being no one to speak for or against the proposed ordinance, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance approving an annexation, final plat, subdivision agreement, and zoning for the Patton Addition subdivision.
Thank you. Chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read. Moved by Councilor Bond, seconded by Councilor Jensen. Any discussion? Yes, Councilor Bond. Councilor Bond, can you turn your microphone on so they can hear you? No, you're good. It's all right.
Okay, I'm looking at the map in the packet, and I just want to clarify the lines around that property. Can you kind of just help me understand? I see where the lot is in the blue, correct? That's being rezoned and annexed. So the dashed line are the city limit boundaries, correct? So is all of that within that boundary being annexed now, or is that, okay, just help me understand that.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, the only property that would be annexed would be the subject property, which is a 3-acre parcel.
In blue,
Yep.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, so that line, oh, I see. So everything which would be to the north and east of that, those lines is currently city property, or city, within the city limits?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, as I understand it, the north and south areas are within the county, will remain within the county, and the east and west would be city limit type jurisdiction. So it's a bit of an island at this point in time, but that will be more of a bridge between the two jurisdictions.
I see, okay.
If this, of course, passes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Questions for Mr. Napier? Okay, any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of an ordinance approving a vacation and final plat creating the Fort Casper Academy Edition No. 2 subdivision. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Liz Becker to J. Carter Napier dated January 21st, 2025. Exhibit number 2, Casper Star Tribune affidavit of publication dated January 2nd, 2025.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
A brief one, Your Honor, I do. The school district is the petitioner here, wherein they are creating a subdivision, if you will, pursuant to their relocation of their driving facility. So the image that you see here in front of you is at the corner of Wyoming Boulevard and Alcova Casper Road, for those of you who are familiar with the area. And again, that will be the location where the driver training facility will be located from its current location at the event center to the spot here being imagined.
Very cool. Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. These comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in favor of this ordinance, proposed ordinance. Okay, at this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to this proposed ordinance to please approach the lectern. Those who wish to speak in opposition. There being no one to speak for or against the proposed ordinance, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance approving a vacation, final plat, to create the Fort Casper Academy Edition Number 2 subdivision in the city of Casper, Wyoming, and approving the associated subdivision agreement.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve on first reading the ordinance just read. So moved by the vice mayor, seconded by Councilor Sweeney. Any discussion? Yeah, Councilor Gamroth.
Thank you, Mayor. I think this is a good use of that land. It's sat there for the entire time I've lived here, and I think the driving range is a really good use of it. My question is, I take it we'll repurpose the existing space near the event center as parking space, which hopefully will alleviate some folks' concerns about the lack of parking due to the construction of the sports ranch. I wonder, do we have, Zulima or Carter, any sort of analysis of how many parking spots we expect to gain with remodeling that space up there? Cool if we don't, but just curious.
Well, Mr. Mayor, Councilor, I can't tell you specifically how many spaces will be gained with this change in use. But what I can tell you is that with regard to the construction of the Roto-Mill parking lot that's called the Cowboy Lot, for those of you who are familiar with the area, and with regard to the conversion of the space in question here, we will actually have more spaces available to our patrons than what was lost in the construction of the sports ranch. So the trade, if you will, is actually in the favor of parking spaces being made available.
Any other discussion or questions? All right, any amendments? Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all counselors voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the transfer of ownership for retail liquor license number 1. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Tremble to J. Carter Napier, dated January 13th, 2025. Exhibit number 2, liquor license transfer application filed December 23rd, 2024. Exhibit number 3, affidavit of website publication as published on the City of Casper website dated January 21st, 2025. Exhibit number 4, Casper Star Tribune affidavit of publication dated January 16th, 2025.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, you have a report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Councilors, what we have in front of us tonight is a conglomeration, in a lot of ways, my term, if you will, of some prominent racing businesses here in the community. I say racing, I mean historic horse racing businesses in the community. And that would, of course, be the conglomeration of Wyoming Downs and 307 Horse Racing, to where the ownership of the licenses, therefore, needs to change a little bit with regard to this combination of efforts. Rather unusual, certainly, but you will see a series of licenses tonight going through the same transition. And so my report is more of an overreaching sort of umbrella report for the series of actions that you're going to be taking that are very, very similar to accommodate this conglomeration. We do have folks here tonight that can answer these questions in a lot more detail than I just gave you in this report, if council needs them. But I would certainly say a very positive development for horse racing in our community.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask individuals who wish to speak in favor of the transfer of liquor license number 1 to please approach the lectern. Those in favor. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Brent Rhodes. I'm an attorney for 307 Horse Racing Inc. I would agree with what you just heard. We have a lot going on. 307 Horse Racing Inc. is obviously one of the horse racing operators here in the state of Wyoming. And we have a corporate, I guess, restructuring, you could call it, where we're going to have it's going to be named HHR Holdings, is going to be an intermediary entity that's holding on to both 307 Horse Racing Inc. and Wyoming Downs. They're going to remain separate and distinct horse racing entities, separate and distinct entities, different licenses, different liquor licenses, and each are going to operate exactly the way they are. As far as 307 Horse Racing Inc. is concerned, we have multiple entities here in town because pursuant to ordinances, we can't hold multiple liquor licenses inside that one. So that's why you're seeing this series. We have 1016 Poplar, 307 Horse Racing Inc., and 307 Horse Racing Management. There's a conversion of those entities from a corporation to an LLC that's going to occur first. That's not before the council today. We've already talked to the AG's office and the liquor division about that, and everyone's on board. We're good on that front. The second part is the change of ownership. Two of the entities here in Casper will fall inside of 307 Horse Racing Inc., and then 307 Horse Racing Inc. will likewise then be held by the HHR holding company. That's technically a change of ownership, even though there is no actual change to operations, to management, nothing like that. And pursuant to your guys' ordinances, that means we have to ask for new liquor licenses. So that's what we're here for today. Works is a really big player here in Casper, but Works is obviously a big player across the entire state. Kyle Ridgway specifically with Works sent me here with apologies that he's not the one talking to you today, but he's traveling. He wants to make sure everyone knows that he's staying here local. He'll still be involved in this, and so will everyone else you've been dealing with. So there is really going to be nothing different except for some names on a piece of paper and a different structure. And as far as the names on the liquor license application, we've talked to about everyone you can imagine. We've talked to almost every city in the state of Wyoming. We've talked to almost every county. We've talked to the AG, the governor's office, the liquor division. Everyone knows what's going on. We're so highly regulated that if we do anything, we have to have seemingly 15 different boards approvals to do it. So there's been a lot of talk about it, and everyone's kind of squared away, but there isn't going to be any management changes. That's the big one we want to make sure everyone's aware of. It's still very much a local thing, and it's still very much going to be here. And I generally agree with your comment about the state of horse racing in Wyoming. When I started doing this with 307 Horse Racing, it was still this small, underdeveloped thing with few players, and it's growing substantially and becoming quite the thing. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to ask, but if not, that's all I have for you guys.
Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, please, Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Mayor. So my only question, and I didn't see it in any of our paperwork, but obviously to get to this point, you would have had, the groups would have had to go before the Gaming Commission. And I'm assuming that transpired sometime last year.
Correct, Mayor, through you. On December 23rd, we had a special meeting with the Gaming Commission in which everything we were talking about here today, particularly the ownership aspect of this, has been approved by the Gaming Commission. And sort of as I just said, it's also been run through the liquor division. The liquor division's seen all of our applications. I feel bad for all the city clerks. Seemingly every city clerk has seen these applications. And also the governor's office is aware of what's going on. If you remember right, Governor Meade played a pretty big role in the horse racing statute in the first place. So we've made sure, both us and Wyoming Downs have made a pretty concrete effort to keep the governor in the bubble as well.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any others who wish to speak in favor? At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the transfer of retail liquor license number 1 to please approach the lectern. Anybody in opposition? Okay, there being no others to speak for or against the transfer of liquor license number 1, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the minute action item by title only.
Approving an application for transfer of ownership of retail liquor license number 1 from 1016 Poplar Incorporated, doing business as Poplar Wine and Spirits, located at 1016 South Poplar, to 1016 Poplar LLC, doing business as Poplar Wine and Spirits, located at 1016 South Poplar.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the minute action item just read. Moved by Councilor Sweeney, seconded by Councilor Jensen. Discussion. Any discussions? Councilor Sweeney.
So Kyle Ridgway did call me last week. I think they've got, I think if I remember right, they've got like 5 of these going tonight across the state. And we were lucky enough to get the kind attorney to address us. So, and it's also my understanding, one of the questions I think I had for Kyle was the ownership percentages looked a little odd to me in my experience, and the direction he told me is the state liquor division basically said that's what they wanted. So I'm imagining that's correct with our city attorney. And so I think it's going to be a very good move. My understanding is 307 in their partnership and portion will basically manage. And from what I've seen in their locations here, they do a very good job. And then I believe once everything's finalized, they'll continue to also manage some of the other facilities that Wyoming Downs had.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything about that.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I would just add that we had worked with our city clerk's office on this, had discussions with Mr. Ridgway, reached out to the attorneys. We feel comfortable based on the representations and the paperwork submitted that it is in compliance with our city ordinances, and this is an appropriate item to come before council tonight.
Great, thank you. Great question, Councilor. Let's see, any other discussion? Any abstentions or nay votes?
Mayor, as a employee of Works, the parent company that owns 307 Horse Racing, I'll be abstaining from voting. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other abstentions? Okay, all voting aye, say aye. Aye. Please record the vote.
With Counselor Gamroth abstaining and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of the transfer of ownership for the retail liquor license number 3. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Tremel to J. Carter Napier dated January 13th, 2025. Exhibit number 2, liquor license transfer application filed December 23rd, 2024. Exhibit number 3, affidavit of website publication as published on the City of Casper website dated January 21st, 2025. And exhibit number 4, Casper Star Tribune affidavit of publication dated January 16th, 2025.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
No.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the transfer of retail liquor license number 3 to please approach the lectern. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the transfer of retail liquor license number 3 to please approach the lectern. Anybody in opposition? Okay, there being no one to speak for or against the transfer of retail liquor license number 3, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the minute action item by title only.
Approving an application for transfer of ownership of retail liquor license number 3, 307 Racing Management Incorporated, doing business as 307 Racing Management, located at 739 North Center, to 307 Racing Management LLC, doing business as 307 Racing Management, located at 739 North Center Street.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the minute action item just read. Moved by Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilor Haskins. Any discussion? Any abstentions or nay votes? Great. Any other abstentions? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With Counselor Gamroth abstaining and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
I now declare the public hearing open for the consideration of a transfer of ownership from retail liquor license number 5. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any exhibits?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Exhibit number 1, correspondence from Fleur Tremel to J. Carter Napier dated January 13th, 2025. Exhibit number 2, liquor license transfer application filed December 23rd, 2024. Exhibit number 3, affidavit of website publication as published on the City of Casper website dated January 21st, 2025. Exhibit number 4, Casper Star Tribune affidavit of publication dated January 16th, 2025.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, do you have a report?
Nothing.
Thank you. Council will now listen to public comment. Public hearing comments are limited to 5 minutes and no duplication of speakers will be allowed. At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in favor of the transfer of retail liquor license number 5 to please approach the lectern. Anybody in favor for this one? At this time, I would ask those individuals who wish to speak in opposition of the transfer of retail liquor license number 5 to please approach the lectern. Anybody in opposition? There being no one to speak for or against the transfer of retail liquor license number 5, I now declare the public hearing closed. Please read the minute action item by title only.
Approving an application for transfer of ownership of retail liquor license number 5 from 307 Racing Incorporated, doing business as 307 Horse Racing, located at 5371 Blackmore, to 307 Racing LLC, doing business as 307 Horse Racing, located at 5371 Blackmore Road.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the minute action item just read. Moved by Councilor Jensen, seconded by Councilor Sweeney. Any discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is kind of unique tonight. I just call your attention that this, the first one that we approved is liquor license number 1. And the second one is liquor license number 3. And the second number, or the last one that we're now on, is liquor license number 5. And what that's saying is those are very old liquor licenses. And we're at the very beginning when we were doing the retail liquor licenses. So just thought that that was, I can't believe that it's 135, but maybe should bet on the ponies tonight. So. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other discussion, comments, history lessons? It was great. It was very good, sweet. That's great. Okay. Any abstentions or nay votes? No.
I will take.
No, you're good. You're good. Any others abstentions? Okay. All voting aye, say aye. Please record the vote.
With Councilor Gamroth abstaining and all others voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. Council will now consider consent resolutions. Please read the consent resolutions by title only.
8A1, authorizing the contract between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and the City of Casper for state funds for the City of Casper's public transportation program in an amount not to exceed $300,000. 8A2, authorizing a contract between the Wyoming Department of Transportation and the City of Casper for state funds to rehabilitate and paint the exterior of the transit facility in an amount not to exceed $75,000. 8A3, authorizing a site lease with Cellco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, for an existing wireless communication facility located at 1514 East 12th Street, Life Steps Campus Rooftop. 8A4, authorizing an administrative services agreement to renew the Mission Square 457B and 401A retirement plan and reduce plan costs. 8A5, authorizing a cooperative agreement between the Wyoming Judicial Branch, Wyoming Department of Health, City of Casper, and Central Wyoming Counseling Center regarding the establishment of the Casper Municipal Court Diversion Program. And 8A6, authorizing a lease agreement with Spuds Baseball Club LLC for the use of Mike Lansing Stadium concessions areas.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda items just read. Moved by Councilor Haskins, seconded by Councilor Sweeney. City Manager, would you like to comment on any of these items?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye.
Aye.
Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Please read the consent minute action titles.
9A1, establishing a 6-cent fund and closing the redevelopment loan fund. 9A2, acknowledging receipt of financial disclosure information from city officials with public fund investment responsibility. 9A3, acknowledging a change in corporate ownership of MTB Entertainment Group LLC, corporate holder of Bar and Grill liquor license number 14, doing business as America. 9A4, acknowledging a change in corporate ownership of MTB Entertainment Group LLC, corporate holder of Bar and Grill liquor license number 15, doing business as Rialto. 9A5, authorizing the appointment of city councilors Matt Larson and Patrick Sweeney and reappointing Paul Bertolio to the Central Wyoming Regional Water System Joint Powers Board for terms that expire December 31st, 2027.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent minute action items just read. Moved by Councilor Bond, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Any abstentions or nay votes? Councilor Sweeney.
If our name's on there, do we need to abstain?
Great question, Mr. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor, there's really no financial or pecuniary interest on the part of the councilor, so I don't think it's really a technical conflict. It's just an appointment. So certainly it's within your discretion, but I don't think there's a legal necessity to abstain.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where am I at? I've got thrown off here. Don't worry. It's perfectly okay. Oh, any abstentions or nay votes? Sorry. Jeez. I was flowing so good, Mr. Manager. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. All voting aye, say aye. Please record the vote.
With all councilors voting aye, the motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, this is when we ask our city councilors to bring forward any relevant concerns or items of interest from the community. Let's start with Councilor Jensen.
What I did last week. I am doing that. But we did, Michael and I had our first PART meeting, which I can't remember what the P stands for, but Art Response Team. Eric, do you? Public. Thank you. Public art. So we just had our first meeting just to go over what we're going to be doing and set up a structure and guidelines for the art placement around the city. So we just had, like I say, our first one, and then we're going to meet again and get further. So it's going to be exciting just to welcome art and figure out where we're going to place it and where things are now. So that's about it. And then getting ready for WHAM tomorrow. Yep. Not the band, but the Wyoming Association of Municipalities. The band. What else? I think that's probably about it. One more thing, I had a chamber meeting, but we just did a lot of strategic planning sessions and going forward and figuring out our path. So that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Councilor Bond.
Nothing to add to that. Vision.
All right. Great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Zulima. And Liz. All right. Thank you. Councilor Larson.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I don't have much today or earlier this afternoon. Councilor Sweeney and I, we attended the Regional Water Joint Powers Board meeting for the first one for the year. So that was good. It was good to meet everybody else on the board and kind of get a feel for what that's all about and just try and get all the correct verbiage and vernacular and all that, all that down. So, yeah, it was a good first meeting, I thought, and that was it. So,
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate it. Counselor Haskins.
I had a public health meeting last Thursday. They are in full building mode in their new building. They are working on the body art regulations. I know that hearing's coming up in February. I think they already had all their public hearings on that, but it seems to be pretty popular. They're also still working with Eric and other people in the city regarding the massage ordinance that they don't have a strong desire to play any part in without hiring another person. So, hey, if we do that, they're coming to us for money. And I did want to ask if we could get Anna and Jai in here for a work session to discuss the mental health. I think we're calling it a task force right now, the grown-up version that public health and them are working on regarding peace in our cities and options that they would like to discuss with us for things that the city can do.
Is that an official request for the council?
I would like to officially request that we put that on a work session if we could.
Is council amenable to have the health task force, the mental health task force? I'm assuming that, I think there's a name for it actually. And I think I need to get
named it yet.
Oh, they haven't. Oh, okay. So basically I think most counselors should know too. To say what it is, it's a organization of a group of people in the community that have come together to try to help combat youth violence, youth suicide within the community. Anna Kinder, who was at the health department, is kind of spearheaded the whole project. And Jai Sutherland, who used to be a counselor on the city council, is also co-chairing that and helping with that as well. So having them come in to have a conversation with us about what they're doing and some initiatives and possibly programming that could come to Casper to help alleviate that. So we would put that on a work session if council is amenable to that. It's okay.
Would Anna be there also, or?
I would like to invite her, yes, please.
So we'd more than likely have Anna and Jai.
Yeah.
Peace in Our Cities is the programmatic program. Yeah, that's the task force is separate from that, right?
Yes.
Randy, excuse me, Councilor Haskins. And so then that's a step apart from that, and that's the kind of the programmatic component of it, if I'm correct.
Yes.
So is, Mr. Mayor, is the health trust also part?
I'm going to get you on this one if you don't mind. So I also went to the youth task force virtually today. So I think that it kind of all started at public health. Anna kind of started the ball rolling and got groups. The collective is now focused on the youth task force, and Anna and hopefully possibly Peace in Our Cities are also working on the adulter version, which will be more focused on mental health and anti-suicide, but that's more of the grown-up version. So it's now kind of branched into two separate similar entities that are working on the same, but there's the bigger and then the youth more focused one. And okay, how'd I do, Eric?
Mr. Mayor, Council, I think that's pretty good. I would just add that the Health Trust does have what used to be called the SIM, which is the NCSJ, which is addressing some of the similar issues. I think that there's ongoing discussions how the three efforts can kind of fit synergistically together. I know that at a work session next week, City Manager Beth Worthen's going to come in and talk about some of the youth initiatives through the trust. And so the trust does have representation with Anna's task force, and it's a lot of the same players, but I think every effort is going to have a slightly different focus. So I'd invite them, if council's willing, to explain it directly to you all.
So it sounds like it's a lot of moving parts. It's a big component. I think having the council sit down and have this conversation is probably a good idea to get started here to do that. So I'm in support of it. If everybody else is to have them come in. I think it's a really complicated, very big thing for us to talk about. So great. Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And yeah, the end of the last I have to say is it sounds like what I expected to see when we started this whole focus on the youth was that we would like see things. But what I'm learning is a lot of it is just getting all the groups of people together where they have an idea of where they're sending people and we don't see it. So I feel like having them come in, and they did establish today that I think they called it mapping as well. All the people that do all the things and all the avenues where you can send people are now done, which is, to my understanding, huge for the people that are actually involved with dealing with the youth or dealing with the people with mental health crises. So we're not necessarily seeing it, but things are actually getting done, and I'm really excited about that. So that was a good thing that came from the Youth Task Force meeting today, and hopefully that's where this bigger one will go, and then we'll know stuff when we have this work session. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended last week one of the branches across Casper meetings down in North Casper at the North Casper Clubhouse. That was very informative, and I would guess there were 25 residents, and asked a lot of good questions. So I just wish we could do more, but this is a great start, and thanks to whoever put that grant application in. It's I think will really pay dividends. I think the applications are due April or the 23rd, couple of days from now. The application's closed. And then as Councilor Larson mentioned, we attended and Matt carried Amber Pollock's proxy, but thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to be on Regional Water. It was a great meeting, and Paul Bertolio was nominated and remains chairman. Dave North as vice chairman, Ken Waters as secretary, and Tracy Sutherland, the mayor of Midwest, agreed to be treasurer. So it was a very good meeting. Thanks to Tom Brower being there and keeping us kind of lined out. It was really a very informative, and of course I asked way too many questions, and Bertolio reminded me that the meetings usually only last an hour, and we went 2 hours. So, but it was very good. So again, thank you for putting me on that. And also attended the Martin Luther King walk, and just would like to say the turnout I thought was very good, and the service project I thought looked great, and I will tell you the mayor did an outstanding job with his talk of hope. So I don't think it got recorded, but it was very good. And the resolution, he kind of screwed up a couple of times. But,
Or you mean the proclamation?
yeah,
I better not do a resolution. Just go ahead and forget that, everybody. I didn't do a resolution without you.
Yeah. But that turned out great too, except for the cold weather. But so, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Gamroth. Go ahead.
So I was gonna, on the consent agenda or resolutions, consent A, 8A, number 3, on the authorizing a site lease and Selco partnership. I would just like to thank the city attorney's office. When I reviewed that, I was like, that's a pretty astounding dollar figure that that the city is receiving. And if anybody has a doubt that our staff is looking out for the citizens and the budget, they could go and look at that total agreement. But thank you to whoever negotiated that and worked on that. So,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Council, just to put a finer point on it, thank you, Councilor Sweeney. Really, that shout out should go to Craig Collins, our city planner, my deputy attorney Wallace Trembath, and my paralegal Heather Bender. They have worked tirelessly on coming up with templates and negotiating these types of leases. I'm only tangentially involved, but they do a phenomenal job, and we really appreciate that recognition, Councilor. So thank you.
Councilor Gamroth, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mayor. We had a Metro Animal Shelter Task Force meeting last Wednesday. Jody, our new facility manager, said she had a group of citizens recently do a walkthrough to gain a better understanding of why the new shelter was needed. Sounds like the visit went very well and all questions and concerns were satisfied. Jody wanted to make sure that anyone that does have questions about the shelter, you're always welcome to give her a holler up there. They are still working with a couple organizations to secure grants to get the TNR program moving in a meaningful way. We got an update on the annexed kennels that we recently approved. The older, council of last year had approved those additional kennels up there, so we got an update on that. I was glad to hear that animals, when they come into the shelter, they're quarantined for 7 days in those kennels to ensure they don't have any illnesses or diseases before they're moved into the main shelter. So that should hopefully really cut down on, cases of parvo and other infectious diseases. They are installing some new cameras soon to include coverage for those kennels. The RFP closed last week for the construction of the new shelter. As we sort of discussed in the pre-meeting, we began collecting 6-cent revenue as of January 1st and set up the account to begin receiving those revenues. There was a recent article about Game and Fish using new traps for turkeys. It sounds like kids and other pedestrians have been harassed. The turkey population is exploding, so we had a brief conversation about that, and it sounds like the city may coordinate with Game and Fish, but that's kind of a Game and Fish led initiative. Controversial topic these days, turkeys, but I'm sure we'll find a resolution that disappoints some people, but hopefully the smallest group possible. Casper Housing Authority had a board meeting last Thursday. I want to commend the staff that work at the Casper Housing Authority for the things they encounter on a regular basis. We haven't had a board meeting since October, other than the annual Christmas party that they had in December. So Kim shared some stories about her staff having to respond to suicide attempts, very serious ones. People trying to throw furniture from the 3rd story of their apartment, fake swatting attempts, just the constant vandalism and property damage that they have at some of their properties. So I commend that staff. They put up with a lot. They have a lot of strange and unusual things happen during the course of their duties, and they handle it all in stride. They did Thankful Thursday. I believe it was in November. The Birds and Bucks Turkey Drive and Distribution, the Stuff the Van Food Drive, were all their events that they had at the end of the year. So they stayed, even though we didn't have board meetings, they stayed very busy at the end of the year. Recently had an audit. There were no findings from the audit, which is pretty impressive considering their portfolio of, going through their financials makes me cross-eyed. It's easily the most complex set of financials I have to go through. So the fact that their audit found no findings, pretty impressive. January 24th is the Homeless Connect event. This is unfortunately 2 days after the point in time count. So I got assurance from Kim that her and Kelly at CAP, Community Action Partnership, are going to speak and coordinate so that really it would be more efficient and effective to have those 2 events on the same day. So going to aim for that next year. They are getting work done at Willard School. Their crew got approved for asbestos abatement through the Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality in just 10 days. Reminder that we couldn't get that same approval when we were seeking CDBG funding through WCDA. It took 3 years to not get that approval. So the fact that, that they're moving forward without that funding and they were able to get, working in a week and a half, I think kind of illustrates some of the deficiencies in the current CDBG funding disbursement system. And I think that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Kyle, for bringing up the Metro Task Force meeting. Kyle and I have both been on that since the beginning. Great meetings. I just wanted to shout out to the shelter manager, Jody Decker, doing a fantastic job since she's got in there, and really is on top of everything with the animals. So it was exciting to see those new kennels being used so that we can segregate the animals. And then excited for WHAM for the next 3 days down in Cheyenne. So, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes, just a couple things. I'll be real brief. As Councilor Sweeney said, I was honored to be able to speak at the MLK Day event that we had at First United Methodist. Unfortunately, the march was postponed and canceled because of the weather. It was pretty cold that day, especially in the morning. The wind chill was very dangerous. So we did get a chance to go to First United Methodist. Kendall and Ginger Terry were the keynote speakers, and they spoke to their lived experiences of systemic racism, especially in the South, and the issues that they face around that, and what we can do in action to help within racism. But I think in large context, what we talk about is how we can help in equality and understanding where we see individuals with dignity, respect, and compassion. In my comments, I did mention that simply celebrating once a month is one thing, and we celebrate it once a month, but it should be a way of life that we fight for social issues that keep marginalized and vulnerable individuals, that continues to happen, and that our call, I think, as Christians and as good people, is for us to fight for that on an every single day. And so that was my call to action for us to do that. We have a lot of good people in Casper, and it was great to see that great turnout as well. Next Monday, I have the Council of People with Disabilities meeting, so I'm looking very much forward to that. I haven't been there for a little while, so I'm looking forward to going back. Council of Governments, the Vice Mayor and I and our City Manager attended the breakfast at Egington's that we do once a month, which was productive. This is what the conversation came when we were talking about the mental health task force, and to have those conversations working in your municipalities together, which will be something that we'll need to do, and look at organizations and communities moving together to how do we work as one. WHAM tomorrow, I'll be heading there. I can't stay the whole time, but I will be there Wednesday and part of Thursday to be able to participate in the work that they're doing. So that is all I have. The next meetings of the City Council will be a work session to be held at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 28th, and a regular council meeting to be held at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, February 4th. A notice of an executive session to take place at this date and during this meeting was given. We have land, litigation, and personnel matters to discuss, and the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn into an executive session, and at the conclusion of that executive session to reconvene this regular meeting solely for the purpose of adjournment of this regular meeting. Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilor Haskins. There being a majority of councilors present, and a motion to adjourn into an executive session has been moved and is seconded. This motion requires a 2/3 majority of the council present. Any abstentions or nay votes? All voting aye, say aye. A greater than 2/3 majority of the council present voted in favor of the motion. We are here